There's a moment in every man's life, usually silent, unnoticed by everyone else, when he realizes that attraction, real attraction, has nothing to do with looks, charm, or success. It hits you not in a flash of insight, but in a long, slow unraveling of everything you thought you understood about women. Maybe it's after the 100th unanswered text, or after the one girl you thought you had a connection with slips away like mist in your hands. You sit there in silence, the cold glow of your phone screen casting shadows on your face, and you ask yourself the question every man eventually confronts: what am I doing wrong? And if you're lucky, if you're brutally honest, you'll admit that it was never really about what you did, but what you didn't understand. Because attraction isn't logical, it's psychological, emotional, instinctive. And women, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to things they can't quite explain. Today, we're going deep into those mysteries, into the raw, unspoken triggers of attraction, the silent signals, the overlooked power plays. These are the weaknesses women don't talk about because they don't even know they have them. But once you understand them, once you feel the emotional architecture behind every glance, every test, every withdrawal, you'll never chase a woman the same way again. This isn't a list, it's a story, a descent into the unseen. And it begins, not with charm, but with calm. The first thing you need to understand, the first hidden weakness, is that women crave emotional certainty more than anything else. And not just because it feels good, but because biologically and psychologically, it's survival. In a world that constantly shifts, that throws curveballs, that flips security into chaos, a woman is always scanning for one thing: stability. Not in her environment, not in her paycheck, but in you. Emotional certainty is the masculine trait that never screams, but always anchors. It's the moment you stay grounded when she tests you, the pause before you speak during an argument, the way you breathe through chaos like it's just another Tuesday. You see, most men think showing emotion is about being vulnerable, but emotional vomiting is not vulnerability, it's instability. What women want is a man who feels deeply but expresses sparingly, not because he's closed off, but because he's in control. That control, that's what makes her feel safe. And safety is the foundation of all attraction. If a woman has to stabilize you emotionally, she stops being the girl and starts being your mother. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who needs to be emotionally babysat. But here's the twist. Women are not drawn to comfort. They're drawn to tension. That brings us to the second hidden trigger. Women are emotionally addicted to what they can't fully have. Scarcity isn't a tactic, it's a psychological truth. The more available you are, the more you respond instantly, the more you center her as your emotional priority, the less value she assigns to your presence. Why? Because we don't chase what's already in our hands. We chase what slips through our fingers. The man who builds distance not to play games, but because he has purpose, he becomes a symbol of value, a mystery, something rare. Women don't fall for the man who's always there. They fall for the one they can't quite figure out, the one they suspect has other options but doesn't need to flaunt them. And the more she wonders where she stands, the more invested she becomes in earning your attention. It's not cruelty, it's the art of masculine detachment. Because when a man is fully secure in himself, he doesn't have to prove it. His absence becomes more powerful than another man's presence. And before a woman ever touches you, before she even knows your name, she hears your presence. Which leads us to the third psychological weakness, the deep subconscious influence of voice and presence. It starts with how you enter a room. No words, just energy. A slow, deliberate pace. Shoulders back, chest open, eye contact unbroken. Women notice posture before they notice style. They sense presence before they hear pickup lines, and a deep, calm, grounded voice. That's biological music. It signals strength, leadership, dominance. Not in an aggressive way, but in the way a lighthouse doesn't move while the ocean rages. You speak slowly, not because you're unsure, but because your words carry weight. Your presence says, "I am unmoved." And women feel that. In a world filled with noise and chaos, a man with stillness becomes magnetic. But most men try too hard. They fidget. They overshare. They let anxiety leak through every movement. They don't realize that the less you do, the more she feels. It's not about trying to be alpha. It's about mastering silence, breath, posture. Presence is the only introduction that matters. Everything else is noise. But presence alone doesn't create desire. That comes from your ability to walk away. That's trigger number 4. You want to make a woman feel something she can't forget? Leave. Not in anger, not in pettiness, but in power. Nothing activates a woman's hidden fear of loss like a man who isn't afraid to lose her. Most guys panic the moment they feel her pulling away. They text more, they explain themselves, they beg, they plead, and in doing so, they communicate the ultimate weakness: dependency. But the man who walks away, who doesn't need to justify himself, who would rather lose her than lose his self-respect, that man becomes unforgettable because he's rare, and rarity is value. Women don't crave validation, they crave strength. The moment she realizes you're not afraid to lose her, she starts fighting to keep you. This isn't manipulation, it's boundaries. You don't walk away to hurt her. You walk away because your mission can't be compromised by someone's emotional games. And that, ironically, is when they stop playing them. Because here's the truth: women want to orbit a man who's going somewhere. That brings us to the 5th hidden attraction trigger: purpose. A man without purpose is a man without gravity. He drifts, he chases, he adapts to her schedule, her emotions, her priorities. But a man with purpose, he doesn't have time to play games. His life is a furnace of progress. He's building something that's bigger than her, and that's what makes her want to be part of it. Not because she's secondary, but because she respects the energy of a man who's going somewhere. Women aren't repelled by ambition, they're starving for it. They want to feel like being with you is a privilege, not an obligation. So when you put her at the center of your universe, she'll always leave. But when your universe is expanding with or without her, she'll do anything to stay inside it. And just when she thinks she's figured you out, you show her something she didn't expect. That's the 6th trigger: controlled vulnerability. Most men get this wrong. They think vulnerability means dumping your trauma, over-explaining your emotions, or crying on the first date. But true vulnerability is strength wrapped in honesty. It's when you reveal your scars only after you've healed them. When you share something deep, but only when it serves a moment of connection, not when you need reassurance. Women don't want a man who hides everything, but they also don't want one who shares everything too soon. The key is to make her feel chosen when you open up, not obligated to fix you. Controlled vulnerability creates intimacy without chaos. It makes her feel special, not burdened. And that kind of connection? That's where emotional addiction begins. But that intimacy brings tension, and with tension come tests. That's trigger 7, the female impulse to test your strength. And it's not malicious, it's instinctive. She might challenge your opinion, ignore your text, or act cold just to see if you fold. Why? Because women are wired to seek strength, not just physical, but emotional and psychological. The moment you react, over-explain, or lose composure, you fail. But if you stay calm, if you smile through it, if you don't flinch when she tries to provoke you, she feels something ancient, something primal, respect. And with respect comes attraction. Women don't test men they don't care about. If she's testing you, it means she sees potential. Your job? Pass without trying. Stay grounded, because the man who can't be rattled is the man she'll chase forever. And even if you do everything right, she might still reject you. That's why the 8th trigger is so important: confidence in the face of rejection. Most men treat rejection as failure, but women feel rejection as information. How you handle it reveals everything. Do you spiral? Do you beg? Do you take it personally? Or do you smile, nod, and walk away like you've just been handed a weather report? The men who handle rejection with grace and humor radiate the deepest form of confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation. And women can't help but notice. Because if rejection doesn't shake you, nothing will. But let's say you've passed her tests. You've shown restraint. You've sparked emotional tension. Now comes the 9th and perhaps most paradoxical trigger: emotional unpredictability. Women may say they want a nice guy, someone who's always sweet, always available, always agreeable. But what they actually crave is something deeper: emotional movement. Not chaos, not drama, but range. Because a man who only shows one emotion, calmness, kindness, stoicism, is like a song with one note: predictable, flat, and over time, boring. What hooks a woman's attention long-term is the unexpected. One moment you're teasing her, the next you're philosophical. One moment you're flirtatious, the next you're focused and unavailable. This isn't inconsistency, it's depth, a full-spectrum emotional experience. When she never quite knows what version of you she'll get, but every version is real, grounded, and rooted in purpose, she stays engaged. Because you become a narrative, not a role. And narratives are addictive. They're stories women replay in their minds late at night when everything else has gone quiet. And that brings us to the final hidden trigger, the one that lives beneath every look, every pause, every heartbeat of the female experience: the unspoken dominance of stillness. Not loud, aggressive dominance, but quiet, icy, composed. It's the energy of a man who doesn't need to prove anything because he already knows, who listens more than he speaks, who waits 2 seconds before answering a question, not because he's slow, but because he's precise, who walks like he owns the street, not out of arrogance, but because he carries no doubt. Stillness is unnerving. It forces others to react, to fill the silence. And women, even powerful, confident women, are biologically wired to respond to that force. Because that stillness, that's the essence of masculine polarity. It says, I'm not chasing, I'm choosing. And when you choose from stillness, not need, every woman around you begins to wonder, why him? What is it about him? They won't be able to explain it, and that's exactly why it works. Now here's the dangerous part, the part most men never realize. Once a woman feels all of these things, she becomes emotionally invested whether she wants to or not. You become a trigger in her psychology, a phantom she compares other men to without even meaning to. The memory of your calm when she tested you, the silence you held when she tried to provoke you, the emotional distance that made her ache, the purpose that made her question her own direction. You become the man who felt like something more. And even if she walks away, even if she ghosts you, even if she tells herself you weren't the one, something inside her will always wonder, what if I had tried harder? What if I hadn't been so emotional? What if I had waited a little longer? And that's the power you carry, not just as a man, but as a masculine force in a chaotic world. You're not here to chase. You're not here to explain. You're not here to make her feel safe by sacrificing yourself. You are here to stand still while everything else trembles. And the more you do that, the more you embrace your silence, your focus, your path, the more women will find themselves pulled into your orbit, unable to articulate why. Because true attraction isn't a choice, it's gravity, and you are the center. But here's where this story gets uncomfortable, because there's something even more dangerous than being forgotten. And that's being remembered by a woman who couldn't keep you. She'll never say it out loud. She'll post happy pictures. She'll tell her friends you weren't ready. But deep down, when the music fades and her phone is quiet and no one's around to witness her regret, she'll feel it. The absence of your calm, the ache of your silence, the emotional whiplash of realizing that the man she once took for granted had been a mirror, one that reflected back everything she feared and everything she wanted. And now he's gone. You see, this is not just a story about attraction, it's a story about power. Not power over her, but power over yourself. Because the man who learns to read a woman's psychological signals without reacting to them becomes untouchable. He no longer panics when she pulls away. He no longer needs to analyze every emoji or obsess over her mixed signals. He sees it all for what it is: a test, a performance, a dance. And instead of reacting, he watches. Instead of chasing, he withdraws. Instead of proving his worth, he lives it. And that is when the game changes, when the dynamic flips, when she becomes the one wondering if she's good enough. But maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you're still replaying the last message she didn't answer, still checking your phone every 10 minutes, still believing that if you could just explain yourself better, she'd understand. And that's okay. Every man has to start somewhere. The key is this: stop trying to win her and start becoming the man who doesn't need to. Because when you become that man, everything shifts. You no longer feel fear when she pulls away. You feel clarity. You no longer see her silence as rejection, but as information. You no longer try to decode her words. You study her energy. You realize that attraction was never about impressing her. It was about being unshakable. And when you master that, you stop chasing women and start attracting respect. But this story doesn't end here, because there's one final truth, one that most men never see coming. Even when she comes back, when the texts return, when the interest reignites, when she starts liking your stories again, you won't feel what you once felt. Because now you've seen behind the curtain, you've tasted your own power, you've realized that attraction isn't a game, it's a mirror, and the clearer your reflection becomes, the fewer women can even handle looking into it. That's the paradox of masculine growth. The more power you gain, the more alone you become. But that loneliness, that's where kings are forged. So the question is not, how do I get her back? The question is, when she comes back, will you even want her? And maybe that's the final trigger, the one no one talks about. The hidden truth behind every woman's attraction, every test, every emotional reaction. She's not just looking for a man she can love, she's looking for a man she can lose and regret forever. So don't chase her. Don't prove yourself. Don't become what you think she wants. Become what the world can't ignore. Because in the end, the world should be perfection. And you are the storm behind the silence.